Okay, let's roll right into our post-race. Our winning team today was driven by Denny Hamlin. He drove the number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota to victory lane here in the second race of the 2012 chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, the 16th annual Sylvania 300. And what a dominating performance by the number 11 car. Denny, you gave Joe Gibbs Racing his 100th career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series win, your fifth win of the 2012 campaign, and very dominating, 193 laps led. This has to be, I would think at least, one of your more dominating performances in your career.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, we had a goal of trying to get to the top 10 by lap 100. Obviously, we got the lead before lap 100, but just took my time getting through traffic, and no matter how fast your car is in practice, it's no guarantee for the race, and so I was a little nervous about that and how the conditions were going to change, but Darian obviously gave me a lightning fast car today, and for me, my job was relatively easy. Just make sure that I didn't make any enemies on the way to the front.
And now you're moved up to third in the points, just 7 points behind Jimmy Johnson, 6 points behind Brett Keselowski. And maybe before I turn it over to the media, let's maybe recognize the members of the United States National Guard here from state of New Hampshire. I know when you were up here for your Chase Across America event, that was something that you were very involved in, and I know you might have something to say to these young men and women.
Yeah, it was exciting to meet all these guys and gals here from the National Guard and the Army. They're getting ready to get shipped off here in a couple weeks, and obviously I told them, once we got this win, when we came back, we go to Victory Lane and celebrate. So it was great for Jerry to have me up here. This is the first time I've got to visit some troops outside of a racetrack itself, and so for me it was a huge honor, especially knowing that what they do is they put their lives in danger to help save someone else's, and so it means a lot for me to be in their presence, and obviously wish them well.
Thank you, Denny. We'll take questions now for our race winner. Let's start right over here with Mark.
Mark Carroll, PRN. Denny, at any point did you feel any extra pressure in the fact that, like Babe Ruth, you kind of called your shot, you just jumped out there after what happened at Chicagoland and basically guaranteed a win? Did it add any more pressure to you at all? Did you think about that at all during the race today?
Yeah, I mean, it crosses your mind for sure, but I knew once we got to about lap 50 and started working our way to the 6th, 7th position, I knew that we had the winning car. It just, it's all those other things I talked about that you can't control that can keep you out of victory lane. It's the untimely cautions, things like that. So for me, that was the most nerve-wracking part, is that let's not find a way to lose, because I knew we had the fastest car today, and I've obviously got a great knack for this racetrack. So for me, it crosses your mind, and then it's extra motivation in my mind to prove yourself right.
Let's go with Bob and then David.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. You kind of touched on it, but you had the best car at California, New Hampshire, and didn't win those races earlier in the year. You had the mess up last weekend, the mess up in qualifying. I mean, what do you do so you don't screw it up, and how nice is it that you didn't?
It feels good, Bob. It's just it seems like every time you have the dominant car, something keeps you out of victory lane. Richmond wasn't even close. We were just toying with those guys all day long, and obviously weather changes the outcome. So we would be on a heck of a run here. Was about 4 out of 5. It had that weather not bit us at Richmond, but gosh, we're on a good run right now, and in my mind, it's the days like today that you hope that there's nothing out there, that no bugs that take you away from victory lane. Obviously, when we saw the 18 had an issue, you start thinking, okay, what ifs? What can happen? But for me, I just drove the car the exact same all day and knew that's all I could control is my line, how I was driving, the braking, things like that. If things weren't going to stay together, they weren't going to do it. And obviously, if the cautions didn't come like they needed to, then it wasn't going to happen. So today, the best car won.
Let's go with David, and then we'll hear from Darian, and then take some more questions. Go ahead.
David Carville, NASCAR.com. Regardless, this is still 3 out of 5 for you, I think. And is that just good cars at good racetracks, or is that something about where your program is right now and maybe what the potential is going forward?
Well, I think that, we've spent a lot of time at Joe Gibbs Racing preparing for chases. We are starting to think about, Chase 2013 probably in this off season. So this is we always stay about a year ahead of schedule as far as our mindset and things that we work on. So I think that this has been something in the works. You try to get through the regular season as best you can, get those wins when you can, but you want to bring your best cars and do the, everything go your way this time of the year. As a driver, I feel like I step up this time of the year. So it's, this is the time to perform.
Let's hear now from our crew chief, Darian Grubb, before we take more questions. And Darian, congratulations. Certainly what an outstanding race car you helped set up here today.
Thank you very much. It's a lot of fun just to be able to bring a piece like that to the racetrack. The whole Joe Gibbs Racing organization did an awesome job preparing that one, especially for Loudon. And it's the best car in our shop. We knew it was going to give us our best chance to win. And after we ran here in the spring, we knew we had a shot at it. So we wanted to make sure we gave Denny every chance to get that out there. And we're just disappointed we didn't show the qualifying effort, because I think we could have won everything this weekend. But that just made the show that much better with Denny being able to drive from the back and put on a show there.
Let's go to Seth, and then we'll go to the press box. Go ahead, Seth.
Seth Livingstone, NASCAR.com. Denny, shortly after you showed how dominant you were, about 20 laps later, there was a situation where you didn't pit. Can you take us through that? And then the good fortune of getting the caution when you needed it about 60 laps later.
Yeah, I mean, things worked out, obviously. Those are the things that can keep you out of victory lane, is untimely cautions, things like that. Darian, he sees lap times, and so I don't see, what our car is doing as far as the drop-off, things like that. But I think we had only run 20 laps, and I actually thought that maybe we should take 2 tires. But, he assured me that we were going to run just fine as soon as we went back green, and I think that's some of the fastest laps we ran all day is on scuffed tires. And we had a similar run like that at the end of the race. We had, both 20-lap, green flag runs leading into the final caution. So it was a no-brainer from him. I think he even told me, you can come if you want, but I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to sit here behind the wall. So for me, it was a no-brainer after we tried that early in the race with no tires to take none at the end.
Was that completely by design on that first, I think, lap 115, Darian?
It pretty much was. It's one of those things, sitting there looking at the fuel windows and everything else for the race and how it was going to play out. If we pitted then, we knew there were going to be at least some cars that stayed out because they're not in a fuel window. And with as many cars as we had one lap down that could do the wave around, that was probably going to give about 12 people their lap back. So all of those things combined, and just knowing how fast Denny's car was and how fast we were on old tires in practice, I knew at that point there's no reason for us to change our strategy. I was going to stick to the laps we were going to pit on and just go from there, and luckily everything still worked out.
Let's go to the press box. Go ahead, questions in the press box.
Denny, Michael Vega, Boston Globe. Just wanted to remind you, when you were up here for your Chase Media event, you seemed to exude some confidence even back then, well before you made your prediction on Twitter that you were going to be in victory lane when you invited the members of the 169th Medevac unit to visit with you in victory lane, and you were going to share some beers with them there. But when you were talking back then, did you have a sense that this was going to be the result for you and your team, and B, all the mistakes that you had suffered here, of course, last in the spring and then with the qualifying, and what did it show you about how you handled it, how you overcame those adversities? Was it mental toughness, maturity, or a combination of the both?
There's a lot of reason why you handle things differently, but, you just learn from over time, what it takes to, build a championship team and what makes these guys tick. What you don't think as a driver that, your emotion has any bearing on how they perform, but it really does. I've found over the, 7 years that I've been here, it's just they really feed off of your attitude and your outlook. And obviously, when I have confidence, they have a ton of confidence. So I just learned that over time. And really for me, I just learned to handle the bad days better. Knowing that I'm one of a handful of drivers that have awesome, great ride, an awesome sponsor, and have a championship winning team backing me. So, I can handle the bad days when I put the grand scheme of things in a bigger picture.
Let's hear now from team owner Joe Gibbs. And Coach, congratulations on the win today, your 100th career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series victory. It just shows the quality and first-class organization that you run. But talk about this dominating run here today by Denny Hamlin.
No, let me comment on what Denny said right there. For 2 weeks in a row, we had two things happen on our race team that really, two of our best people. And I think the way Denny reacted both times was just absolutely great. And I think that meant a lot to his team. And I think the way you handle things like that, being the guy that's wheeling the car, I think it's a big deal. Last week he was real relaxed afterwards, and that person took it real hard. This week, I turned around when we figured out kind of what we thought it might be in the pit area, and Denny just grabbed the crew member in a headlock and was laughing with him like that. I thought for a minute it was going to be a headlock and a punch, but it wasn't. And I really appreciate the way he handles everything. Darian just does a great job of that too. It'd be easy for the guy in charge to go off on somebody. But really, many times that can make the difference down the road. Because those guys are going to remember that, the way they were treated, and I think they'd die for them, both. And so I really appreciate that. It was a huge day for us. Bobby Labonte came in the victory circle. I appreciated Bobby. Dale Jarrett, Jimmy Makar, everybody when he first started. Tony, so it took a lot of people down the road. But certainly, gosh, I think back on it, 21 years just doesn't seem like it was that long ago. And you realize that we got 100 wins. That was a huge deal for us.
We'll take some more questions from the press box for either Coach Joe Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, or Darian Grubb. Go ahead, please.
It's Rich Thompson, Boston Herald. Darian, just a sense of vindication from what happened in the Lennox 301?
Yeah, definitely. You look at how many realistic shots we had at winning races, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have like 6 or 7 or 8 wins in the season based off of just obscene stuff happened that took us out of victory lane. That being said, we've as a team have won some races. My team won it for me in Atlanta, and all those things. So vindication, it's like I always say no track owes you anything. You got to go out there and you have to perform and you have to do it yourself. But this one was obviously close. Bristol, I led on the last lap twice there before I actually won. So Bristol was as close to vindication as I possibly could, and this was a very close second.
Go ahead, press box.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Denny, after Chicagoland, it was "We will win" on Twitter, but on Friday you clarified that it wasn't a guarantee. What made you back off of that a little bit? And were you afraid of jinxing it? Was it an outside influence? Was it what's happened in the past? And do you have any regrets that you didn't just come out Friday and say, yeah, we're going to win?
Well, I mean, when you do that, you kind of put yourself in an island, in my sense, that drivers will tend to not give you the spot. They'll drive harder just to make sure your job's harder. Other drivers don't like to see that happen. So you can't just call your shot and they're going to pull over and give the race to you. They're going to drive harder, knowing that you said something like that. But I just wanted to clarify that that there are no guarantees. I've had the fastest car in my career and not won. I don't 20 times, some crazy amount, and not won because of the variables that I talked about on Friday. So I just wanted it to be clear that I'm not guaranteeing anything, but barring any of those circumstances happening, we were going to win. I had faith that we were going to win. So I just, it was more for my fan base that was probably down on our performance at Chicago. It was more for them, all my followers on Twitter, that I was going to assure them that we were going to have a rebound week.
Go ahead, press box.
Louis Frank Reuters. This is for Darian. If you could amplify a little bit on what Coach was talking about, what did you do or say with the team not to dwell on the fuel situation in Chicago? And I apologize for dwelling on the fuel situation in Chicago.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't a big deal because we sat down and Scott Wood's one of the biggest men on the team, literally and figuratively, for what he did. He wanted to stand up in front of the group and say, I'm sorry, I messed up, and I'll make it up to you. It won't happen again. And that kind of attitude is what kind of runs through the team. Then, unluckily, we had the exact same thing happen on Friday where we just had a mental mistake that cost us a really good qualifying effort. But they stepped up, they said, I'm sorry, and everybody rallied around him in the next 10 minutes, patting him on the back. We are working together as a team, and that's the only thing I can ask. And Denny's been a huge part of that, being able to just have that maturity and that team leadership, just to let the guys know that he's behind them and the guys are going to be behind us.
Let's stay in the press box. Go ahead.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. But for Darian, there are times still where Denny does seem a little gun-shy, so to speak, on the radio, like, maybe he's not quite believing it. Is there something you can do to build that back up once, you've had situations like that in the past?
That's something we work on all the time. That's just something of working the situations and just having his trust of knowing that I feel like I'm making the right call at that point. But just knowing how scared he was picking up that lobster, I think I got something I can throw back at him each week now. So, but it's something that just comes with time. The more the confidence gets, and I still want him to question it because I need him to question me at times because I need to make sure I'm making the right decision. When he questions something really adamantly, that means that the car is not doing what he needs it to do for us to make that call. So that feedback is always needed.
Let's stay in the press box. Go ahead.
This is Lee Spencer again. For Denny, can you talk a little bit about Dover? What are you going to do to, what's your game plan going in there? It's not one of your favorite tracks.
Well, I'm going to be optimistic when I go there. Darian and my team has been working on that racetrack for quite a long time, the last few weeks at least, working on a setup that would make me comfortable around that racetrack. Obviously, we're going to take, I think, our Richmond car there, so it's the car is going to be good. I just, I've got to have an open mind when I get out there for the first green flag run and have faith that I can do it. So I'll be leaning on my teammates quite a bit next weekend. Obviously, they're both very good at that track. So obviously, with data that we had this year on having throttle traces and brake, I'll be analyzing that quite a bit next weekend.
Go ahead, press box.
This question is for Darian. Jason Remillard from the Springfield Republican. Just talk about Denny's run today and coming from the back, and last year at Homestead, Tony doing what he did back to front. And just talk about what goes through your mind as a crew chief when you see your equipment really coming through like that, charging through through the field. It must give you a little bit of a boost, like whatever we're doing is working.
Yeah, you can't have more of a proud feeling in racing than to have a car that'll do that and be able to give the driver all the tools he needs to go out there and get the job done. The work that goes behind it in the shop for months is what people don't see, and just to be able to have that go out there and be fast on the racetrack, it means a lot just to be able to know all those guys' work paid off and we were able to go out there and execute and get it done and take it back and let them see the trophy.
Let's take one more upstairs, then we'll come back down here. Go ahead, please.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire Service. For Denny, when you got out of the car and pointed at the crowd, was that a conscious after-the-fact tribute to Babe Ruth? Was that planned or spontaneous? And when's your next victory so I can get my bet down?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll let you know a couple weeks in advance. But I don't know. It's definitely. It's there was many people that called their shot with championships and all that ahead of me. So I'm just a small little bug on the windshield.
Let's come back downstairs. Any questions? Bob, you have one?
Yeah, Bob Parker, Sporting News. Darian, a couple of questions. Is it easier for crew guys to rebound from mistakes when they know they have pretty much, if you do everything right, you're going to probably do well? And then also, is it more of a challenge for you as a crew chief when you roll off on Friday morning and you're the fastest to keep it the fastest throughout the weekend compared to maybe if you're 5th to 10th and just knowing if you're always going to be making changes to make it better rather than possibly tuning yourself out?
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, the way we started the weekend, unloaded off the truck, we were fast, but we didn't stop working on it, that's for sure. We still worked every practice trying to make the car better, trying to respond to what Denny's comments were. We made a lot of changes. We didn't run the same setup we did here in the spring. It had a lot of tweaks to it. The car was different. Some of the suspension was different and those things. So the more things we do differently and go out there and unload fast, we got more confidence that the things are working. And as far as the crew working from behind, that's not a big deal for them. They come every week just planning to be the best. They try to do that. So patting them on the back and letting them know they are the best, you really can't ask any more of them. They can't work any harder. They can't do anything more to try to be perfect because we're trying to be perfect all the time.
Other questions? Bob has another one.
This is for Coach. I mean, I don't know how much you pay attention to Twitter, but did you hear about Denny saying we will win? And what do you think of that from a coach's standpoint? Are you like, oh no, or are you like, yeah, this is the attitude we need to have?
I have a throwback on that one. I used to stand in the window and they had interviewed Dexter Manley outside my window with the Redskins, and you knew Dexter was going to say something like, we're going to kill them or something. You know what I mean? I'd be going like this, don't you dare. And so I'm glad I didn't hear about it till later on, because normally that one for me doesn't work out. So anyway, I'm glad I didn't hear it. Hey, one thing that I forgot to mention too, and all of our partners, 100 years and all the things, 100 race wins in 20
You're not that
years.
old. I know you're old. But...
I plan on being here for 100, by the way. No, I wanted to say I left out Toyota and talking about that, and we've been going through some issues over the last several weeks, and just realized what a great partner they are. And I can tell you this, I don't think we'd be here. They've just been awesome. As I wanted to take that I'd missed that. I was trying to thank to everybody that helped us get to where we are. And there's so many people in this sport, and it's different than, for instance, football. Over here, there's so many people. You got to have a sponsor. You got to have all the things that it takes to get where we are. And we really appreciate our partners. In particular, I wanted to mention Toyota on that. So anyway, for me, I prefer, to not hear those. Well, the difference over here, the drivers tell me what to do. Plus, as an owner, I'm along for the ride.
Dexter Manley's a little bit bigger than Denny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dexter could threaten me a little bit easier than what Denny can.
Other questions? Right here, Matt.
Joe, Matt Wernes, WWLP.com. I know Joey Logano's leaving at the end of the year to go to Penske in 2013, but back here 3 years ago, he got his first NASCAR Sprint Cup win here.
Yes, a huge day for us, and we're going to miss Joey. We worked extremely hard to keep him with us, but it wound up in the end he had a better opportunity. We understood that. I think Joey had gone to be a real star in our sport. We know that, and we were trying to keep him with us, but it just didn't work out. So I remember it very vividly. That was a big deal for us on that day.
Let's go upstairs again. We have another question.
Monty Dutton, Gaston Gazette. Denny, as much as you had looked forward to New Hampshire, you were dreading Dover as a trouble spot. Is there anything, how much effort have you put in? Is there any indication, do you have any feeling that it's going to be a lot better this time?
Just open-mindedness. All I can do is just have a positive outlook. How we've run, we've been more cold than hot, but I have had some races where I was pretty competitive. Just all it takes is us to hit on one thing that I identify as, okay, that's what makes me comfortable around this track. And if we can find that, then we're going to treat it just like any other weekend that we have a great shot to win. So it's just finding that thing. We typically practice a little bit better, a lot better than what we race. So it's transferring all that information and talking to my teammates about what I need to do in the race to be better. It's just people have their Achilles heel, and for me, it's just in my course of my career, Dover's been it. I've won a nationwide there somehow. Everyone else must have wrecked or something, but I don't know. But I just got to figure out what it takes in Cup.
Congratulations to the number 11. You have a question? Let's go. Let's finish with her right here.
I remember Ashley Chase, WCX. I remember you winning back at Richmond and being so thrilled to win at home a few years back. Is New Hampshire kind of become a second home, a place where you've been able to find that comfort and success?
Yeah, I mean, it's the confidence level is very similar. When I go to Richmond versus Loudon, the tracks are similar, and for me, my confidence level is very similar. That I expect to go out there and win on these type of racetracks. Anywhere from the half mile to about the 1 mile flat tracks have been my bread and butter over my career. So it's for me, this is I always look forward to this racetrack having 2 races, because for me it's 2 opportunities to get wins.
Congratulations to the number 11 team, Denny Hamlin, Joe Gibbs, Darian Grubb, and congratulations to the National Guard folks here, and God bless you. Thank you.